Good morning. My name is Brooke Anttila, and I had the joy of encountering a Spirit of St. Stephen's worship service at the wedding of Michael Donahue, who happens to be my boss, and Bonnie Weck in 2005. I saw and felt what a special group of kindred spirits this community holds, and I've been worshiping with Spirit on and off ever since. My two children, Elise and Ben, do not attend often, but they've joined the group of Spirit families for several camping trips and outings. I appreciate the love and inclusion my family always feels. It's an honor to break open the word with you today. I do so humbly, looking at your faces and wondering, how do I set this before 100 people? So, to combat my nervousness, it helps to imagine you as individual guests in my home, maybe arriving when I just baked something. It would bring me joy to offer you a slice of fresh bread to go with our coffee, and I would hope that you would enjoy it. But if sourdough is not to your taste, of course, I wouldn't be offended. I would just compost or toss the leftover fragments to the birds outside and trust that you would find sustenance elsewhere. Like many others during the pandemic, I became enamored with sourdough baking. So when a friend who had become a prolific sourdough baker offered me some of his starter, well, at first I had declined. Honestly, it sounded like too much work. I'm a single mom with a full-time job, I have 2 kids, a cat, a house to care for, and I didn't want the pressure of feeding another living being, keeping it in just right conditions and making continual plans to use it. For those unfamiliar with the care and feeding of sourdough starter, it involves regularly feeding it with some kind of flour and water, allowing it to grow and populate, and managing your time based on the conditions, the weather, the heat, the cold, to use the starter in your bread recipe at around the time of peak natural yeast production. If you choose not to use it regularly, starter can be kept in the refrigerator and fed once a week or so. I remember feeling a similar sense of dread when my college roommate asked me to care for her plants while she studied abroad. My fear, what if I accidentally killed them? Time passed, and my family continued enjoying our friends' delicious sourdough bakes. And eventually, I started dreaming of delicious sourdough pizza with a bubbly crust, slightly charred, topped with homemade red sauce, prosciutto maybe, arugula, figs, blue cheese. We take pizza seriously in my house. I decided to go for it, and I accepted a bit of my friend's masa madre, the Spanish term for sourdough starter. The mother was called Dominga because he baked on Sundays, and I named my starter Carlitos. Since it's a living thing, it needed a name. Carlitos and I have now been baking together for about a year. We bake pizza crust, various sourdough boule, and sandwich bread regularly. And the pressure I foresaw in keeping him alive transformed into a sense of joy at the increasingly consistent results and a respect for the magical process that is sourdough bread baking. I felt a sense of honor and responsibility to feed my family this healthy homemade bread. A few things in the readings resonated and applied to my experience of bread baking. The first is the understanding that part of the deliciousness of bread is that it's filled with air. Air is spirit. The air going into and out of our lungs, the air Carlitos burps up when consuming the flour and water, the unique and particular air present in my home and in yours, that smell of home. All of the microorganisms, the bacteria, the people, the plants, the animals, they all create a unique flavor in anyone's homemade bakes. Our own unique scents, the smell of one's caregiver, the fresh, sweet scent of a newborn babe. We breathe, and air is our essence, our spirit. Using the bread metaphor, what is needed rises, is baked, and consumed naturally includes the history and the environment in its signature. And the same goes with bread that is over or underworked, does not rise due to heat, cold, pressure, is overbaked, or otherwise lost or forgotten. Gather up the fragments that are left over so that nothing may be lost. The second point I'd like to pull out is that bread is body. It's energy for our daily needs. That same substance that makes up our substance on earth. Christ's body in Eucharist is a physical reminder of our and Christ's humanity. And just as my sourdough starter has physical needs, our bodies require regular feeding, love, and attention. And what is fed to us becomes us. I appreciate these words of David Adam about bread. Be gentle when you touch bread. Let it not lie uncared for, unwanted. So often bread is taken for granted. There's so much beauty in bread. Beauty of sun and soil, beauty of honest toil. Winds and rain have caressed it. Christ often blessed it. Be gentle when you touch bread. As we recognize and partake mindfully in our abundance, as we are able, may we also share with others, as the crowd following Jesus on the shore of Galilee surely did. May our love for one another, gratitude for life, and a full and complete acceptance of our bodies and spirits fill us to overflowing. We reflect this week on Jesus feeding with the bread that gives life, and look forward to next week when Jesus will tell of the bread that gives eternal life. As you move into small groups, please share your own experiences of baking, eating, and sharing bread, or whatever resonated with you from this week's readings. Thank you.